Hey there, you're listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Here's your host, RJ Carbone.
And a high drive into left center field. Stanley's going to watch another one fly. Are you kidding me? DiVincenzo a three. Bang! Bang! Knicks take a
Take this time to apologize to absolutely nobody.
At the wall. See ya! See ya! See ya! Mr. Nova.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down and the game is tied.
Rose, you shook up the world again.
I did it again. My God did it, man. I really just had
Gonna have to. Brunson running away. Oh my! He has been the best player to put on that uniform.
Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right. Well, yeah, I think that was a very telling experience, right? Listen, I would have been pissed off if the Knicks went in there and got blown out of the water. But they didn't. And so I think it was a telling game, not in a bad way. Like I think we know where the Knicks stand right now. I think they have a lot of issues to work out, and they're not quite ready yet. They're not quite ready for the big time. They played a legitimate team tonight, and the Knicks aren't at that level yet. But they're not far off at all. I think they're right there. I mean, they're competitive against every top team they play. Most top teams they play, they're competitive in these games, right? At the very least. Like, they've beaten the pulp out of Minnesota. They've beaten the pulp out of Denver. They beat Orlando a bunch of times. They beat the pulp out of Milwaukee, which I don't think you can consider them elite, but they're one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. Sure, they got smacked around to Boston on ring night. They lost to Cleveland in the first week of the season or two in a very tight game. In a close game, they lost to Houston. And they lose another close game to OKC tonight. So it's like all the losses against these top teams haven't been awful losses, minus opening night of the season with a brand new team. Like this, I'm not worried. In all these teams, like it's mainly Western Conference teams that have given the Knicks problems so far, which if we have to worry about these types of teams, that only means one thing. And I still like the Knicks a lot in a matchup against Cleveland. So really, I'm looking at this Knicks team right now, and I think the only two teams I'm worried about are Boston. And then, again, you go to the West, and it's this OKC team. These are the two teams that I really think the Knicks are going to have a lot of tough time beating. They're going to have a tough time beating. But from what I saw tonight, I think, they have another game next week. It doesn't leave me totally demoralized. The Knicks played great basketball for 3 quarters. For 3 quarters, I thought their process was very good. And then they, kind of collapsed a bit. In that 4th quarter, they broke down. Right? I thought the 3rd quarter, after a great second quarter, where everything just clicked. And, a little bit of shakiness on that last possession there, but like you go into half on top and what was it, a double figure lead? 3rd quarter, OKC goes on this early run. The Knicks just continuously giving the ball up. But the Knicks responded well in the middle of that period. They maintained a compete level to keep them in the game, but they didn't close the period well. Turnovers were an issue in that entire second half. We'll get to that in a second. And the fourth quarter comes, and, the defense broke down. Brunson, Towns, Josh Hart all had some bad stuff defensively. And the Knicks just can't get it done. They lose 117-107 in OKC. Offensively, tonight, I'm saying last night because I'm recording this pretty late. Offensively, some poor decision making. Not smart basketball, especially late in the game. The three-pointer continues to be a problem for this Knicks team of late. They've forgotten how to shoot. We'll talk about why they're not getting the volume of threes up that they should be getting. I thought Towns with some tough early decision-making, passing on cuts. OKC plays the gaps very well. They're always bringing good help with their wingspan. Brunson had some turnovers against pressure. He continues his three-point brick fest. I can't remember the last time this guy shot well from three. And so that all helped the Knicks lose 117-107. And again, a lot of the things they did, I had no big issue with. Like the foundation of Thibs' game plan wasn't a problem for me. I thought defensively, the Knicks were not terrible just looking at their game plan. Like the way they played SGA and the Thunder, it wasn't bad. SGA finished with 33 points, but they made him work for it. He had to take 26 shots to get there. I thought Mikal Bridges handled him pretty well. You had OG in help. I thought the three Wingstop did a good job against SGA and against J-Dub. Right? Like, the Knicks' game plan was to force the Thunder middle and to let them pass out to the open three-point looks because the Knicks know that OKC is a terrible three-point shooting team. They're in the bottom third of the league. They can't shoot well. In OKC, as the Knicks dared them to shoot, they shot. And they had a rare hot night from three where they shot well over 50%. So I thought the Knicks did some smart things by hedging Brunson, hedging Towns a little bit on those SGA pick and rolls. That's a good idea. With OKC, a poor three-point shooting team, hedge those ball screens because you don't have to stress as much about recovering and rotating back as quickly. So there were some good defensive things I liked. I'm still going to say, and I know they're a poor three-point shooting team, so the Knicks should technically run drop, but also, again, Towns is often poor fundamentally in drop coverage. His positioning's not always great. Technique's not always great. And you're playing a team that has Isaiah Hartenstein. And as Knicks fans are well familiar with, Isaiah Hartenstein is one of the most elite screeners in basketball. So with that, I kind of wished the Knicks would switch a lot more. I thought there were a number of times where there should have been an auto switch, where the Knicks would have two wings in the action, or they'd have one of their wings and Precious in the action, but instead they'd fight over, but they were too slow getting over the top, and so they got beat, and they're chasing behind the hips. SGA's first basket of the night, Mikal gets caught on an iHeart screen, and SGA scores on Cat in drop coverage. SGA's first three-pointer that he knocked down, Towns is in drop, while Josh Hart's caught on the screen. He gets an early and one in this game, SGA does, and it's with Towns just kind of in a poor stance off the pick and roll. And so I feel like if the Knicks just switch these, you're wasting less time because you're literally ignoring the ball screen. And so there's a good chance you're still in front of your assignment. And I thought as the game went along, Towns and Brunson had some tough moments defensively. You know, there was one that caught my attention in the fourth quarter of tonight's game. There was about 4.5 minutes left, maybe a little less than that. The Knicks are up just 2 points, and Brunson and Towns make an awfully late pre-switch, which leads to a very late switch between Brunson and Mikal on the SGA Dort short pick and roll. And that forces the Knicks to bring help off the wing. And now Brunson's forced to rotate over with Cat helping in the paint. And the Knicks are late in rotation. And so that led to a big-time Aaron Wiggins 3 to put OKC up. And I think it put them up for good. So just one of the moments where I just thought their pick-and-roll defense was very poor down the stretch. Josh Hart, I did not love the defense from Josh Hart. I thought he had some very lazy closeouts or non-closeouts to shooters, I should say, in the fourth quarter. He had a bad gamble with about 40 seconds left. He gambles trying to steal it on, it may have been one of the Williams guys, but he ends up getting beat. So now he's behind, and whoever it was gets a basket at the cup. So the defense was good and bad, but for the most part, I didn't think the defensive process was terrible. I thought offensively it was a very tough watch. And you're playing the best defense in the league. But it's tough to sit here and watch this Knicks team continue to struggle against specific defenses, right? They continue to struggle against defenses that hedge and switch. And so that led them to just 107 points tonight on 107 offensive rating. It led to a lot of really bad turnovers. It led to 28% three-point shooting. It led to the Knicks only getting 32 three-point looks up, with Towns attempting 0 three-pointers. That's a problem. And again, that's all because of their issues attacking aggressive coverages, switching defenses that bring a hedge with their big. When the Knicks face a switch-heavy defense, I will say this again, a defense that switches and puts their big to Hart and their wings or small to Cat. And in this case, tonight, it was Hart on Josh Hart and one of the Williams guys to Karl Towns. It gives the Knicks issues, right? It gives them issues finding three-point looks for Cat because he's got a perimeter wing defender on him. And Cat would rather take the small onto the post when he's got that matchup, or he'd rather drive the closeout when he's got that matchup. Excuse me. It also gives the Knicks issues just keeping Brunson comfortable. Brunson's uncomfortable against that because he's facing high-pressure defenses who hedge their big on those Josh Hart pick and roll. So even when you bring Hart into the action, which should always be the plan when he's got the big on him, I thought OKC did a nice job hedging. Right? Brunson had a lot of trouble making quick decisions and hitting the second side and hitting the short roll tonight. There were times when the Josh Hart Brunson pick and roll worked. Sure, early in the first quarter, they run a side pick and roll. Middle of the third quarter, they run a Brunson Hart Towns horns out pick and roll for Hart. But for the most part, Brunson was very uncomfortable on those Hart pick and rolls because OKC was able to counter the Hart ball screen with the Hartenstein hedge. Right? Early in the third quarter, the Knicks try it. Josh Hart screens, Hart hedges. Now Brunson's forced to make the short roll pass, and it gets picked off by Hart. Late in the fourth quarter, about 2.5 minutes left maybe, the same thing with Hart, who makes a very hard hedge off of a Josh Hart screen. Brunson turns it over off the short roll pass. They also have issues just getting the traditional 1-5 pick and roll, right? They can't get those 1-5 pick and roll looks when they're running into defenses who play that scheme where they switch the wing and big. Because Cat's wing is going to always switch that action. And that's going to force turnovers. It's going to force tough looks. You know, when Brunson's running pick and roll with Cat, even in this game, and Cat's got the wing, it doesn't work. Top of the third quarter in this game. There's about 10.5 minutes left maybe in the third quarter. Brunson uses Cat to screen and pick and roll for him to get the Williams switch. Williams is very long, and he contests a three-point attempt. Brick. Middle of the fourth quarter, crucial moment. The Knicks are up 3 points. Brunson uses a Cat pick and roll for the Williams switch once again. And Williams contests it very well. And Brunson misses a well-contested 20-footer. So they just have a lot of problems going to their offense. They have issues getting those Towns post-up looks against smalls. Because a lot of the time, when you go to that post and you're trying to post Cat against a small, it has to be Hart dumping down the entry pass. And if it's not, and if Hart's just weak side, well, then the defense is going to pre-switch the Cat post up, or scram switch it, I should say. Or they'll just send weak side help with the big roaming off Hart. So it's kind of hard to just set it up perfectly the way you want. You know, tonight, I thought the Knicks, for as tough as it was to get it, I thought they found Cat on the small on Williams a decent amount. You know, especially in that third quarter to follow that early OKC run. I thought they went to Towns a little bit there, and it worked fine. But overall, Thibs offenses and Brunson overall has trouble finding and executing counters versus switching and hedging. And that's always been a thing. I'm trying not to kill them because, you know, the Brunson pick and roll is this team's, you know, spaghetti and meatballs, right? And that's the Italian way of saying bread and butter. But like, and this is how most offenses are, if not all offenses. That's how they work down the stretch. They're going to spam matchups, right? And OKC is the number one defense in the league, and they're a smart defense. They're an athletic defense. They're a physical, long defense, and they have a ton of counters in their scheme. You're going to call Hart to screen the big to get him out of the paint? All right, we'll just hedge. You know? You're going to post Cat on a small? We'll just send the weak side. We'll pre-switch it. And the Knicks haven't consistently found out how to figure that out. So that was my biggest takeaway from this game. It wasn't really the defense. It was just the way, you know, it's a theme we've been talking about lately offensively. Some positives here are that Mikal Bridges continues to play really good basketball. And so I'm going to give Mikal Bridges the game ball. I don't like calling it the game ball and losses, but I think Mikal was the best Knick tonight. Mikal Bridges scored 24 points tonight. Picked up a steal, a block. He shot 53%, 36% from his threes. Played 41 minutes. I thought he was very active off ball, hunting shots. He was in movement a lot. getting you his spots on the three, getting you his spots on post-ups in the short mid-range game. That's where he lives. I thought he handled SGA pretty well defensively, like we said. So Mikal Bridges now on the year. 4 game balls for the Knicks. Got off to a very tough start for the first month plus. Found it in December. And is continuing that here in January. On the season, the Knick wing is averaging 19 points on 51% from the floor. He's a +7. Up to a +7, which is good considering his plus minuses were consistently negative earlier in the year. But it's not a coincidence that as his defense starts to pick it up, so do the box score numbers there. The plus minus. I did not like what I saw from the bench tonight. But I think if there was one guy who played from the second unit that wasn't awful, it was Landry Shamet. I think he was his usual self. He knocked out a shot. He, played some feisty defense. There's not much else to say. But in 6 games so far for the Knicks, I think Landry Shamet's done a fine job. And this is his first game ball, so good for him. I don't know, there are people getting frustrated with Tom Thibodeau still about this rotation and the bench minutes. What do you want him to do? He's trying to win games, especially tonight against the number 1 team in the league, arguably. What do you want him to do against OKC? Of course he's going to run the first unit out there for long. Look at the names on this second unit. Cam Payne, Landry Shamet, Precious Achiuwa. What are we talking about here? Why are we this angry? Cam Payne was dreadful tonight. He played 8 minutes and was somehow still able to be a -7. His defense was atrocious. Giving up the baseline consecutively. No adjustments. And his minutes have been decreasing nightly for a reason, folks. Cam Payne's been awful lately. And when the shot's not falling, the whole aggressive style, which is his identity offensively, I get it, it does look ugly. Precious tonight, I even thought he was pretty bad. He was a tough watch in certain moments of this game. That 3-pointer he took really frustrated me too. I know he's been better knocking down the corners lately, but that was tough. Deuce was obviously a DMP. He's still hurt. But I'm not going to get mad at Tom Thibodeau for not playing the bench a ton tonight. He basically ran 6. I mean, the other 2 guys he played 6-7 minutes. He ran a 6.5. I don't know. Did we see the beginning of the fourth quarter when Brunson was on the bench? How did that look for you guys? I mean, come on. They had such a problem generating offense. Even with as bad as Brunson was, when he was on the floor, it was a lot better than when he wasn't. And you could sit here and you could tell me, well, the Knicks ran out of gas because he's running these guys into the ground and the bench is not playing well because of the lack of playing time. It's again, look at the names you're talking about. Under any other coach, Cam Payne would be the same Cam Payne you're getting right now. Landry Shamet, Precious Achiuwa. You got to give Thibs credit for Deuce McBride's leap. You know me, these are pro athletes. I'm not getting mad at the Knicks starting 5 playing a lot of minutes because they're one of the better starting 5s in the NBA, if not the best starting 5 in the NBA. I don't think it's a Thibs thing. I think it's a Leon Rose thing. It's a front office thing. But a lot of you guys are trapped into groupthink because you're all on Twitter. And Twitter is literally groupthink. It's mob mentality. Everything's for likes. Validate me. I think it's a front office thing. They're going to have to figure this out. The Knicks will have to make a move within the next month that involves Mitch and or Precious in a trade. Because those are the only two sizable contracts to make it work, right? The Knicks right now are just barely below that second apron. And I believe the way it works is they cannot increase payroll this deadline. They can only maintain payroll or decrease payroll. And so for them to get actual value in return, they're going to have to move a decent-sized contract. And that's Mitch's $12 million descending and Precious's $6 million, right? If they want someone to come in here and, whether it's a bigger wing player or a stretch type who can space and defend and drop coverage, it's going to have to be Mitch's contract or Precious's contract, because those are the only two sizable contracts the Knicks have left to move. Excuse me. So it's a Leon Rose front office, Brock Aller type thing. It's not a Tom Thibodeau thing. I don't think he has the personnel to play this bench 20 plus minutes each. Like, that's not going to help the Knicks win games, in my opinion. And you could talk about the rookies, Ariel Hukporti, Tyler Kolek, Pacome Dadier. They're not ready defensively. We've seen them. They've all shown some promise. I like Pacome Dadier and the fact that he's this wing who can slide his feet well and he looks switchable. I like Tyler Kolek and how he can shoot the three and how he can make really good reads out of pick and roll as I spit onto the mic. I liked what we saw from Ariel Hukporti earlier in the year. But, they're not ready to play consistently, to play 20-plus minutes a night against the OKC Thunder. Again, in a fantasy world or in a different world, would I like to see them get a little bit more playing time? Sure. But I don't think we're in a spot where I can say it's egregious that Thibs is doing what he's doing with this rotation right now. I think that's crazy to act like it's this out-of-this-world atrocity. So the Knicks take a loss. And so up next, they've got Chicago tomorrow. A Bulls team that they must beat. That needs to be a win. And then after Chicago, they've got Orlando on Monday, Toronto after that on Wednesday, OKC again on Friday, this time at the Garden, and then Milwaukee after that, which that's the game I'm going to. I'm going to that Sunday 3 p.m. game against Milwaukee next week. But they have the Bulls tomorrow night. Please beat that team. It's the second of a back-to-back. Believe it's an 8 p.m. game, so we'll see. And with that said, we're going to wrap it up. When we return from break, we'll get to our trivia, and that will be that. Stay with us. We'll be back in a few minutes here on BD4. BD4 episode 772 of the podcast. BD4 is available on social media for those who want to follow. You can find BD4 on Instagram at BD4Pod. You can find us on X at BD4Pod. And you can find us on Facebook by simply searching BD4. Hey guys, just a quick reminder, this podcast is also available in video format on YouTube. So be sure to go over to the YouTube channel, BD4, subscribe, like the videos, comment and tell me how much I suck or maybe how much you like the video. We'd very much appreciate it. Don't have time to sit down and watch a video? You can listen to BD4 on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And you can also watch the video format on Spotify too. If you feel like supporting the podcast, you can Venmo at Robert-Carbone-JR-28. We really appreciate your support. Do you enjoy Yankees baseball but are tired of hearing me yap? I have a suggestion for you. Go check out Yankee Crazy Podcast. Greg Gill is a Yankees podcaster on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and he's now selling merch. Go to yankeecrazy.myshopify.com. Stay connected with us. Visit BD4blog.com to explore our blog, tune into our latest podcasts, and follow us on social media. Thank you for being a part of this community. Okay, welcome back to the show. Episode 772 of the podcast. Very much appreciate you all tuning in as always. Let's wrap it up with our trivia question of the day. And that is, when was the last time the Knicks won consecutive games against the OKC Thunder? All right. When was the last time the Knicks won consecutive games against the OKC Thunder? Let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. If you get the answer correct, I'll give you a shout out in the next show. Folks, that's it. I appreciate it so much. I always do. With that said, we're going to wrap this one up here. Episode 772 in the books. Thanks for tuning in and listening to BD4. Maybe you're watching BD4, whatever platform you're on. Very much appreciate it. See you soon. Well, if you made it this far, that means you listened to or watched the entire episode. Thank you. Just remember to follow, subscribe, download, rate and review, and all that fun stuff to help out the podcast. And I will see you in the next episode of BD4.